My fiancé's lawyer accidentally sent me the prenup he'd been hiding, so I signed it and sent it back with a few changes. I was supposed to be planning centerpieces when the email came in. I thought I was planning my dream wedding, picking out centerpieces and tasting cakes. But one email, sent by mistake, ripped away the fairy tale and showed me the chilling reality. I wasn't marrying a man. I was about to sign a 47-page contract for my total surrender. It landed in my inbox like a bomb. Subject: Prenuptial Agreement, Revised Draft, Confidential. The sender was Mitchell and Associates, where Trevor's college roommate, Brendan, worked. My heart did a strange little flutter. A prenup, okay, we'd talked about it, but the confidential part felt off. I opened it. I'm a paralegal, you know? I've seen hundreds of these. But this wasn't some standard boilerplate. This was a hostile takeover wrapped in legal jargon, a hostage negotiation disguised as a marriage contract. 47 pages of it. I felt a cold dread creeping in. Section 4.2 jumped out first. I'd waive all rights to his family's vacation properties. Whatever, I thought. I don't care about a Hamptons house. But then, Section 7.1, it required me to sign over any inheritance from my own parents into a trust he controlled star. My parents, who scraped and saved for my future, whose legacy I cherished. That hit different. And Section 12, oh, that was my absolute favorite. In the event of divorce, I'd receive $50,000 per year of marriage, capped at 5 years. 5 years. Trevor made $340,000 a year. His trust fund alone was worth over $4 million. Meanwhile, I'd been by his side for 6 years. 6 years. I supported him through his father's death, spent countless nights helping him launch his consulting firm, and endured every single Sunday brunch with his mother, who never missed an opportunity to compare me unfavorably to his ex-girlfriends. The real gut punch, though, was buried at the very bottom of the email. A casual note: Trevor, here's draft 3 with your requested updates. Notice we strengthened the infidelity clause. Let me know if you want the settlement cap lower, Brendan. My blood ran cold. His requested update star. Strengthened infidelity clause star. Settlement cap lower star. This wasn't a mistake, it was a calculated ambush. He had orchestrated this, meticulously crafting a document designed to strip me of everything. The man I was going to marry, the man who professed to love me, saw me as an asset to be managed, a risk to be mitigated. The betrayal was a physical ache in my chest. I sat there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity, but was probably just 20 minutes. My coffee went cold. The dreams of our future, of our wedding, shattered around me. Then, something shifted. The hurt solidified into a hard, cold resolve. Fine, Trevor. You want to play hardball? I can play harder. I reopened the document. My fingers flew across the keyboard. I deleted section 7.1 entirely, the one about my inheritance. Then I added a new section 7.2, stating any inheritance I received remained solely * mine. Section 4.2, the vacation properties? Changed it to grant me equal access to all of them. And Section 12, that insultingly low divorce settlement? Rewrote it completely. Now, in the event of divorce due to his infidelity *, I'd receive 40% of all assets acquired during the marriage, plus a cool $200,000. Then, for good measure, I added Section 18. Both parties agree to complete transparency regarding all legal documents. Failure to disclose constitutes grounds for contract nullification and triggers infidelity clause penalties. Yeah, I went there. I saved it, electronically signed it with a flourish that felt immensely satisfying, and sent it back to Brendan with a short, sweet note. Looks good. A few small changes for Trevor's review. Then, with a lightness I hadn't felt in hours, I went back to planning my centerpieces. Let him squirm. Trevor came home later with Thai food, a peace offering, and a telltale guilty smile. How was your day? He asked, trying to gauge my mood. Great. I chirped, maybe a little too enthusiastically. Got so much wedding planning done. I watched his shoulders visibly relax. He thought he was in the clear. Not even close. 3 days later, the phone rang. It was his mother. Darling, Vivian cooed, her voice sickly sweet. We need to talk about signing some paperwork before the wedding. Oh, the prenup. My cue. Oh, the prenup? I replied, feigning innocence. I already signed it. Brendan sent it over. Silence. Dead silence. Then a sharp, he would asterisk? Yeah, I said, leaning into the phone, a small, vindictive smile playing on my lips. I made a few tiny changes, but nothing major. What kind of changes? She demanded, the sweetness completely gone, replaced by a cutting edge. Just additions about transparency and equal property rights, I replied calmly. And I adjusted the settlement terms. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, a triumphant grin spreading across my face. Let the games begin. That evening, Trevor burst through the door, his face a furious shade of purple. He didn't even bothering with a greeting. "What the hell did you do?" he roared. I stood up, crossing my arms. "I signed the prenup." "Isn't that what you wanted?" "You changed it," he practically yelled. "You were hiding it from me. For how long were you planning to spring a 47-page document on me right before the wedding, Trevor?" I shot back, my voice remarkably steady. "You think I'm stupid? You think I wouldn't notice the insultingly low caps, the inheritance grab?" His jaw clenched, a muscle twitching in his cheek. "Those terms were reasonable. Then my changes should be reasonable, too," I said, my voice hardening. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. "I'm calling Brendan. This isn't legally binding." "Actually, it is," I countered, a cold confidence settling over me. "I can change it before signing. That's how contracts work. You can accept my terms, or we cannot get married." The look on his face told me everything. This wasn't about protecting his assets, it was about control. Pure, unadulterated control. "My mother will never agree to this," he snarled. "Good thing you're marrying the and not your mother," I replied, my voice dripping with ice. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. He didn't come back that night. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls. 47. All from Brendan. He'd clearly informed Trevor that, yes, my version was valid since I'd signed first. Trevor now had 3 choices: sign my version, negotiate, or walk away. Later that day, Vivian herself showed up at my office, bypassing security like she owned the place. She marched straight to my desk, slammed a folder down. Inside was the original prenup, with a single, imperious note: "Sign this, or the wedding is off." Vivian. I didn't even hesitate. I picked up my red pen, the same one I used to mark up legal documents, and wrote in bold, clear letters across the front: "Counter offer stands." I slid it back across the desk. "Tell Trevor he has 48 hours to decide who he's really marrying." She glowered, her face a mask of furious disbelief, and stormed out without another word. That was 4 days ago. This morning, an email landed in my inbox from a lawyer I'd never heard of. The subject line made my blood run cold: "Regarding your employment at Morrison and Associates." I opened it, my hands starting to shake uncontrollably. The letter informed me I was being terminated, effective immediately. Breach of confidentiality. Accessing privileged client documents without authorization. Potential criminal charges pending. My supervisor wanted to see me in his office within the hour. I sat frozen in my kitchen, coffee going cold in my hand. This couldn't be happening. I'd worked at Morrison and Associates for 4 years. I'd built my reputation, earned my paralegal certification. I was good at my job. And now, Trevor's family was destroying everything I'd worked for, simply because I wouldn't roll over and play dead. The injustice burned. My phone buzzed. Trevor's number. I almost didn't answer. But a strange defiance made me. "Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences?" His voice was ice, devoid of any warmth I'd ever known. "My mother has connections all over this city. You humiliated our family." I stood up for myself. I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. "That's not humiliation. You accessed a confidential legal document that wasn't intended for you," he sneered. "Your lawyer sent it to me by mistake *." I practically screamed. "I didn't hack anything." "Doesn't matter," he said, the pure arrogance chilling me to the bone. "We have 3 partners at Morrison who owe my mother favors. Your career is over." He hung up before I could respond. I drove to the office in a daze, my mind reeling. My badge wouldn't work at the security turnstile. The guard, who'd smiled at me every morning for 4 years, looked at his screen and shook his head, his face a mixture of pity and discomfort. "Sorry, miss. You're flagged. I need you to leave the premises." I just need to get my things," I pleaded, my voice barely a whisper. "HR will mail them," he said, avoiding my eyes. I stood there in the lobby, a public spectacle, while other employees walked past, pretending not to see me. Rachel from contracts wouldn't meet my eyes. David from litigation actually crossed to the other side of the hall to avoid me. 30 minutes ago, these were my colleagues, my friends. Now I was radioactive. My supervisor, Gerald, appeared with 2 burly security guards. He didn't even try to soften it. Accessing privileged documents, violation of client confidentiality, misuse of company resources. You're lucky we're not pressing charges. The document was sent to my personal email address by a lawyer who thought he was sending it to his client. I cried, my voice cracking. I was the intended subject of the prenup. I had every right to see it. "You exploited that error for personal gain," he stated, his face impassive. Personal gain? I was trying to avoid a legal trap. I was trying to protect myself. The absurdity of it made me want to scream. Not my concern, he said, turning away. Legal has advised termination and potential criminal referral. You have 72 hours to retain counsel if you want to contest this. They walked me out. Actually walked me out asterisk, like I'd stolen office supplies. I sat in my car for an hour, watching people come and go through those glass doors. For years of my career. References. Professional reputation. Gone. Because I wouldn't let Trevor's family bully me into signing my life away. Tears streamed down my face, hot and furious. My phone kept buzzing. Unknown numbers. I ignored them until one persistent caller kept trying. Finally, I answered, my voice thick with unshed tears. Is this the paralegal who messed with the Whitmore prenup? A woman's voice, sharp and amused, cut through my despair. I'm Julia Chin, family law attorney. I've been hearing about you all morning. The legal community is tiny, and Trevor's mother made the mistake of bragging about destroying your career. She paused. I'd like to meet. I drove to her office in a neighborhood I couldn't usually afford. Julia was maybe 45, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She didn't offer sympathy, she offered strategy. She slid a business card across her polished desk. I'm going to be direct. What Vivian Whitmore is doing is illegal. Interfering with your employment, threatening criminal charges over a document that was legitimately sent to you. That's retaliation and potentially blackmail. They're saying I accessed privileged information, I mumbled, still reeling from the morning. You received an email, she countered, her eyes sharp. You're also the subject asterisk of the document. You had every right to review it and propose modifications. She leaned forward, her gaze intense. Here's what I think happened. Trevor wanted to trap you with an unconscionable prenup right before the wedding, when you'd feel pressured to sign. His lawyer accidentally sent it early. You called their bluff. Now they're trying to scare you into compliance. It's working. Good, I said, a flicker of my old defiance returning. Let them think that. She opened a folder. I want you to file a lawsuit. Wrongful termination, retaliation, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We'll add Trevor and his mother as defendants, along with Morrison and associates. My stomach dropped. I can't afford to sue them. They have unlimited resources. I'll take it on contingency, she said, cutting me off. 1/3 of whatever we win. And we will asterisk win, because they've made critical mistakes. She showed me printouts, text messages between Vivian and one of the Morrison partners. Emails discussing my termination before it happened. Phone records proving they'd coordinated the whole thing. Trevor's mother is so confident in her power that she didn't bother covering her tracks. She texted the senior partner, take care of that paralegal problem before Friday. That's textbook evidence of conspiracy. How did you get these? I asked, completely stunned. Julia gave a wry smile. Let's just say I have a very talented investigator, and Morrison's IT security is embarrassingly weak. None of this is admissible yet asterisk, but it tells me exactly what discovery will uncover. She tapped a message. Vivian had written, make an example of her. I want every firm in the state to know what happens when someone crosses our family. We're also filing a complaint with the state bar, Julia continued. Trevor's lawyer, Brendan, committed malpractice by accidentally sending that prenup. Then, instead of acknowledging the error, he helped fabricate criminal allegations against you. That's serious ethical violations. They'll destroy me, I whispered, the fear creeping back in. They're going to try, Julia said, her voice firm. That's why we move first, and we move hard. She pulled out another document. This is a cease and desist letter. We're sending it today to Trevor, his mother, Brendan, and Morrison and associates. It puts them on notice that we're documenting everything. Any further retaliation, any interference with your ability to find new employment, any defamatory statements, we add it to the lawsuit. My hands were shaking again, but this time, it was from a strange mix of terror and exhilarating possibility. What if I just walk away? I asked, picturing myself disappearing, starting over somewhere new. Find a new job in another city? You could, Julia said, her gaze steady. But they'll follow you. Vivian Whitmore doesn't stop. She'll blacklist you everywhere she has connections, which, from what I understand, is most of the legal community in 3 states. You walk away now, you'll be running forever. I thought about Trevor's face when I told him my counteroffer stood. The shock that I dared to defy him. His mother's rage when I wouldn't back down. They expected me to crumble, to apologize, to beg for mercy. I took a deep breath and a strength I didn't know I had rose within me. Let's do it, I said, my voice clear and firm. Let's sue them. Julia smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who loved watching bullies get what they deserved. Perfect. I'll have the complaint drafted by tomorrow. We'll file by end of week. In the meantime, document everything. Every call, every message, every interaction. And don't sign anything they send you. I left her office feeling something between terrified and exhilarated. This was really happening. I was suing my ex-fiancé and his powerful family. Trevor called that night. I heard you hired Julia Chin, he said, his voice tight. Really? You're going to drag this into court? You got me fired, I retorted, my anger resurfacing. You threatened my career. What did you expect? I expected you to be reasonable, he snapped. To understand that my family has standards. Standards? I scoffed. Your mother literally texted, make an example of her to my boss. You want to talk about standards? Silence on his end. You're bluffing, he finally said, a hint of desperation in his voice. Ask Brendan about Discovery, I said, a chilling calm in my own voice. Ask him what happens when we subpoena all those communications about getting me fired. You're making a mistake. Funny, I replied. That's exactly what I thought when I said yes to your proposal. I hung up. My hands were still shaking, but this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from a potent mix of adrenaline and righteous fury. The next 48 hours were chaos. Julia filed the lawsuit. The local legal journal picked up the story immediately. Paralegal sues prominent family over prenup retaliation. By morning, my phone was flooded with calls. Some were reporters, hungry for a scandal. Others were lawyers from different firms, offering support or information. 3 different attorneys who'd had bad experiences with the Whitmore family reached out to share their stories. Apparently, Vivian had a history of crushing anyone who challenged her. She'd tanked a female associate's career for refusing to falsify documents. She'd gotten a young lawyer fired for dating someone she didn't approve of. The woman had ended up leaving the legal profession entirely. But the most interesting call came from Trevor's ex-fiancée, a woman named Isabel. I saw your lawsuit in the news. I need to talk to you. We met at a coffee shop far from downtown. Isabel was elegant, composed, but clearly nervous. I was supposed to marry Trevor 5 years ago, she began, her voice soft but firm. His mother gave me a prenup identical to yours. When I tried to negotiate, they orchestrated a campaign to destroy my reputation. Vivian told everyone I was a gold digger who'd faked my credentials. Within a month, I'd lost my job at a PR firm. My apartment lease mysteriously wasn't renewed. And I found out I'd been blacklisted from the entire industry. I had to move to another state and change careers entirely. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about me. This was a pattern. Why didn't you sue? I asked, horrified. I couldn't afford it, she said, shaking her head. No lawyer would take the case because the Whitmores were too powerful. But you have Julia Chin. She's the only attorney in this city who isn't afraid of that family. Isabel slid a folder across the table. I kept everything. Emails, text messages, voice recordings. All the evidence of what they did to me. I want you to use it. I opened the folder. Inside were dozens of documents, a chilling testament to the systematic destruction of Isabel's life. Screenshots of Vivian sending emails to Isabel's employer, claiming she'd stolen company funds. A recording of Trevor telling his mother, "Don't worry, we'll make sure no one ever hires her again." Bank records showing payments to a private investigator who'd followed Isabel for months. Why did you keep all this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Because I knew someday they'd do it to someone else, she said, her eyes meeting mine, full of a fierce, quiet resolve. I've been waiting 5 years for someone to fight back. She leaned forward. Destroy them, please. For every woman they've crushed. I took the folder to Julia. Her eyes lit up as she reviewed the contents. This is gold, she breathed. This establishes a pattern of behavior. We can amend the complaint to add civil conspiracy and racketeering. The Whitmores have been running an illegal operation to control and intimidate women. Racketeering? I asked, incredulous. Like organized crime? Exactly like organized crime, Julia confirmed, a predatory gleam in her eye. They're using threats, intimidation, and economic harm to achieve their objectives. A pattern of behavior over years. Multiple victims. We might even be able to get federal charges involved. The amended complaint was filed that Friday. This time, the story made the front page of the city's legal section. Lawsuit alleges prominent family ran scheme to intimidate women. The article detailed both my case and Isabel's, with quotes from Julia about the horrifying pattern of abuse. It ended with a call for other victims to come forward. By Monday, 6 more women had contacted Julia's office. All ex-girlfriends or ex-fiancés of Trevor or his cousin. All had been subjected to similar campaigns of destruction when they wouldn't comply with Whitmore family demands. One woman had been forced out of medical school. Another had lost custody of her daughter because Vivian had fed false allegations to Child Protective Services. A third had declared bankruptcy after the Whitmores weaponized their business connections to destroy her startup. The lawsuit grew. What started as my wrongful termination case became a class action representing 8 women. The legal community was watching, mesmerized, and horrified. Headlines appeared daily: Whitmore family accused of systemic abuse. Trevor stopped calling. His mother's society friends, once so eager for her approval, started distancing themselves. 2 prestigious board positions she held asked for her resignation, pending the investigation. Then Morrison and Associates made their first mistake. They issued a press release denying all allegations and claiming I'd been terminated for legitimate cause. They included details about supposed performance issues and implied I'd been unstable and vengeful. Every word was defamatory. Julia filed a motion for sanctions within hours. The hearing was set for 10 days later. I arrived at the courthouse with Julia, my stomach a knot of nerves, terrified of facing Trevor and his family in person. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, of course, and lawyers who'd come to watch the spectacle. A few of the other women from our class action were there, offering quiet support. And there, sitting in the front row with their legal team of 6 slick attorneys, were Trevor, his mother, and the managing partners from Morrison. Vivian looked at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. Trevor wouldn't meet my eyes. The Morrison partners looked distinctly nervous, which Julia whispered was a very good sign. The judge, the Honorable Margaret Reeves, entered. She was known for being tough and fair, and she looked absolutely formidable in her robes. She'd reviewed our motion for sanctions, and her gaze, when it landed on Morrison's legal team, could freeze fire. "Counselors," she stated, her voice sharp and clear, "I've reviewed the press release your clients issued. I'm deeply troubled by what appears to be witness intimidation and defamation in service of litigation strategy. Would anyone like to explain why I shouldn't sanction your firm immediately?" Morrison's lead attorney, a man I recognized as a high-powered litigator, stood, looking visibly rattled. "Your Honor, my clients were merely defending their reputation against false allegations by making specific claims about Ms. Peterson's job performance and mental state, claims that I note," Judge Reeves interrupted, holding up a stack of documents, "are contradicted by 4 years of exemplary performance reviews. Reviews your client provided in discovery showing consistent raises and praise for Miss Peterson's work, right up until the day she was terminated." The attorney paled. "We weren't aware those reviews had been disclosed yet, Your Honor." "Then perhaps your clients should have consulted you before issuing defamatory press releases," Judge Reeves said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She turned to Julia. "Miss Chin, I'm granting your motion for sanctions. Morrison and Associates will pay $50,000 to Ms. Peterson for attorney fees. Additionally, I'm ordering them to issue a public retraction of their press release by end of business today. Failure to comply will result in additional sanctions and potential contempt charges." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Vivian, her face beet red with fury, stood up abruptly. "This is outrageous. Our family has been pillars of this community for generations." Judge Reeves looked at her coldly. "Mrs. Whitmore, sit down or I'll have you removed. Your family's social standing does not place you above the law." But Vivian wasn't done. "That woman stole confidential documents. She manipulated my son. She's trying to extort us. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm warning you. We have rights. We shouldn't have to tolerate this harassment from some opportunistic bailiff," Judge Reeves said, her voice dangerously quiet. "Remove Mrs. Whitmore from my courtroom." 2 court officers approached. Vivian looked genuinely shocked, as if she couldn't believe this was happening. Trevor jumped up to intervene. "Your Honor, please. She's just upset." "Then she can be upset in the hallway," Judge Reeves said, cutting him off. "Remove her now." They escorted Vivian out, her voice echoing down the corridor about injustice and corruption. Trevor followed, shooting me a look of pure venom. Judge Reeves turned back to the remaining attorneys, her eyes sweeping over them. "Let me be clear. I've seen the evidence in this case. The text messages, the emails, the pattern of behavior. If even half of what's alleged is true, the Whitmores have engaged in appalling conduct. This court takes allegations of witness intimidation and retaliation very seriously. I suggest all parties begin settlement negotiations immediately, because if this goes to trial, the discovery process is going to be extremely unpleasant for the defendants." The hearing ended. Julia was practically glowing. "That was better than I hoped," she whispered to me. "A judge publicly calling out their behavior and ordering sanctions? That's gold for our case." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Julia made a brief statement about standing up to powerful families who abuse their influence, about protecting women from retaliation, about justice finally being served. I said nothing, too overwhelmed to speak. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Miss Peterson, this is Patricia Donnelly. I'm an attorney representing Trevor Whitmore and his family. My clients would like to discuss a settlement. Put everything in writing and send it to Julia Chen, I said, my voice firm. With respect, Miss Peterson, I think a direct conversation might be more productive. My clients are prepared to be quite generous. I'm sure they are, I replied, a bitter taste in my mouth. Send it to my attorney. I hung up. 20 minutes later, Julia called. They just sent over settlement terms, she said, a note of amusement in her voice. Want to hear this? How bad? They're offering $500,000 to you. $200,000 to each of the other women in the class action. Full retractions and public apologies. Your job back at Morrison with a promotion and raise. All legal fees paid. My heart started racing. $500,000. That was more money than I'd ever imagined having. What's the catch? Standard confidentiality agreement. You can't discuss the case, the settlement, or anything related to the Whitmore family ever again. Violation triggers return of the settlement plus penalties. They want to buy my silence, I said, the words heavy in the air. Exactly. They want this to go away quietly. Julia was quiet for a moment. Financially, take it. $500,000 is life-changing money. You could pay off debt, buy a house, start over somewhere new. Professionally, taking the settlement means they win. They get to keep operating the same way. The next woman who stands up to them will be destroyed, just like Isabel was. What about the other women? I haven't asked them yet. I wanted your input first, since you are the named plaintiff. I stayed up all night thinking. Thoughts swirled in my head, the freedom the money would buy, the fear of continuing the fight, the faces of Isabel and the other women, their ruined lives. By morning, I'd made my decision. I called Julia. I want to reject the settlement. Take this to trial. Are you sure? She asked, her voice cautious. This kind of money doesn't come around twice. I'm sure, I said, my resolve ironclad. But I want to talk to the other women first. This is their decision, too. We held a conference call that afternoon. All 8 women from the class action. I explained the settlement offer and my decision to reject it. There was silence. Then Isabel spoke, her voice clear and strong. I vote we go to trial. I've been hiding long enough. It's time someone held them accountable. One by one, the other women agreed. Some cried, some sounded terrified, but they all voted to continue the fight. The woman who'd lost her daughter said, I want my kid to see that powerful people can't just destroy whoever they want. I want her to see me fight back. Julia sent the rejection to the Whitmore attorneys that evening. Their response came within an hour, a new asterisk settlement offer. $750,000 for me, $300,000 for each of the other plaintiffs. Same confidentiality terms. Julia called. Almost giddy. They're scared. They're offering nearly $3 million total to make this go away. Tell them no, I said, without hesitation. You're turning down $750,000. I'm turning down being silenced, I corrected her. Tell them if they want this resolved, they can make a public statement acknowledging their actions, establish a fund for their victims, and agree to independent oversight of their business practices for 5 years. Julia laughed. They'll never go for that. Then we'll see them in court. The next offer came 2 days later, $1 million for me, $400,000 for each of the other women. Nearly $4 million total. Trevor called me directly, his voice strained and desperate. Please, you've made your point. My mother's reputation is destroyed. I've been asked to step down from 3 boards. Our family business is losing contracts. Just take the money and let us move on. Let you move on, I scoffed. Like Isabel was allowed to move on? Like the woman who lost her daughter. That was different, he protested weakly. How, Trevor? How was that different? You ruined people's lives because they wouldn't do what you wanted, because your mother thought she owned them. You don't get to pay your way out of that. A jury could give you nothing. You could lose everything. Then I'll lose, I said, my voice rock steady. But at least it'll be on record what your family did. He hung up. The offers stopped coming. Discovery began in earnest. Julia's team subpoenaed everything: emails, text messages, phone records, financial documents. The Whitmore family lawyers fought every request, but Judge Reeves wasn't having it. She ordered them to comply or face contempt charges. What we found was worse than we'd imagined. The Whitmores had files on dozens of women Trevor and his cousins had dated. Background checks, financial records, private investigator reports. They'd compiled dossiers like some kind of intelligence operation. One file on Isabel was 200 pages long, documenting everywhere she'd gone for 6 months. We found evidence of bribes, $10,000 paid to a hiring manager to ensure a woman didn't get a job, $25,000 to a landlord to break a lease, $50,000 to a CPS worker, though we couldn't prove what that payment was for. The pattern was clear. When a woman didn't comply with Whitmore demands, they deployed their money and connections to systematically destroy her life. The local media covered every development. Whitmore family documents reveal systematic targeting of women. The story went regional, then national. Morning shows did segments on powerful families who weaponized their wealth. Vivian was dropped from every charity board she'd ever served on. Trevor's consulting firm lost 40% of its clients. Then 3 more women came forward. They'd seen the coverage and recognized the pattern. One had dated Trevor's cousin. When she'd broken up with him, she'd found herself suddenly audited by the IRS, her business licenses mysteriously revoked, her permits denied. It took her 2 years to prove the audit was fraudulent, and by then her business had collapsed. Julia amended the complaint again. 11 plaintiffs now. The lawsuit had grown beyond anyone's expectations. The trial date was set for 6 months out. In the meantime, we prepared. Depositions, witnesses, expert testimony about the psychological harm of sustained harassment campaigns. Trevor's deposition was devastating. He couldn't explain why there were private investigator files on women he dated. Couldn't justify the payments to various people in positions to harm his ex-girlfriends. His attorney kept trying to intervene, but Julia was relentless. "Mr. Whitmore, you texted your mother, don't worry, we'll make sure no one ever hires her again," referring to Isabel Walsh. "What did you mean by that?" "I don't remember saying that," he stammered, sweating. "We have the text message. It's in evidence. I may have been upset. People say things when they're upset. And then your mother paid $10,000 to a hiring manager at Isabel's next prospective employer. Coincidence? I don't know anything about that. Your mother's bank records show the payment came from an account you both have access to." Trevor's face went crimson. His attorney called for a break. When they returned, Trevor's answers became vague, more evasive. He claimed not to remember conversations, not to have known about payments, not to have been involved in decisions. It was obvious he was lying. Vivian's deposition was even worse. She'd never been challenged like this in her life. When Julia pressed her about the dossiers, the payments, the coordination with business associates to harm the women, Vivian lost her composure entirely. "These women were trying to trap my son, trying to steal our family's wealth. I had every right to protect what's ours by destroying their careers, their reputations, their lives. They should have thought of that before they crossed us." Julia let that answer hang in the air, a chilling silence. "Mrs. Whitmore, did you just admit to retaliating against these women?" Vivian's attorney practically dove across the table. "Do not answer that. We're taking a break." But the damage was done. It was on record. Vivian Whitmore, admitting that she deliberately harmed women who crossed her family. That deposition video would be played for the jury. It would be in the public record forever. Morrison and Associates settled separately. They paid $800,000 divided among the plaintiffs and agreed to implement new policies around termination procedures and client conflicts. They also issued a formal apology, acknowledging they'd been manipulated by the Whitmore family and shouldn't have terminated me without proper investigation. It wasn't everything, but it was something. 3 weeks before trial, Trevor reached out through a mutual friend. He wanted to meet, just the 2 of us, no attorneys. I agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a coffee shop where we'd had our first date 6 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. He looked terrible, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes. His expensive suit seemed to hang on him. "I've been talking to a therapist," he began, his voice quiet, almost shy. "Started after the depositions." I said nothing. "She's helping me understand how toxic my family dynamic is. How my mother's control issues warped my relationships. How I've been complicit in horrible things." He finally met my eyes, and for the first time, I saw genuine pain, not just anger or entitlement. "I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not because of the lawsuit, but because I genuinely didn't see how wrong it all was until now." "You didn't see it, Trevor?" I asked, a mix of disbelief and pity. "You literally told your mother you'd make sure Isabel never worked again." "I know," he said, shaking his head slowly. "I've been reading the transcripts, seeing my own words. I can't believe that was me." His hands shook as he reached for a folder. "My mother raised me to think we were different. That our money and name put us above normal rules. That people who challenged us deserve to be crushed. I never questioned it. Not once. Until now. Until I was forced to. Until I had to sit in that deposition and explain to a camera why I participated in destroying innocent people's lives." He pushed the folder across the table. I want to give you something. No strings attached. No settlement offer. Inside were bank statements, accounts in Trevor's name showing all the payments his family had made to harm the women. Email chains between him and his mother, planning various retaliatory actions. Voice recordings of family meetings where they discussed which business contacts to leverage against which women. This is everything. All the evidence you'd have to fight for in discovery. I'm giving it to you voluntarily. I stared at the documents. This was enough to guarantee we'd win at trial. Why? I asked, my voice hushed. Because it's the right thing to do, he said, his voice gaining a flicker of strength. Because I'm tired of being who my mother raised me to be. Because maybe if I help destroy the system, I can start becoming someone better. He stood up. I've also filed a restraining order against my mother. She's not allowed to contact me anymore. I'm selling my share of the family business and I'm moving to California. Somewhere she doesn't have connections, somewhere I can figure out who I am without her influence. What about the trial? I'll testify for your side. I'll tell the jury everything. What we did, why we did it, how the whole operation worked. My attorney says I'm insane, but I don't care anymore. I need to fix this. He left before I could respond. I sat there, staring at the folder, trying to process what had just happened. My ex-fiancé, who tried to trap me with a predatory prenup and then destroy my career, had just handed me the evidence to ruin his family and offered to testify against them. The world felt completely upside down. Juliet nearly fell out of her chair when I showed her the documents. This is unprecedented, she exclaimed, her eyes wide with a triumphant gleam. With Trevor's testimony and these records, the Whitmores don't have a defense. They'll have to settle or get obliterated at trial. Do you think he's genuine about the remorse? I asked. About testifying? Maybe, she mused, flipping through the bank statements. People say a lot of things before they actually have to sit in a witness stand and betray their family. But these documents alone change everything. The Whitmores are going to panic. She was right. Within 24 hours, the Whitmore family lawyers requested an emergency meeting. They came with a new offer, $2 million for me, $750,000 for each of the other plaintiffs. No confidentiality agreement. Public acknowledgement of wrongdoing. Establishment of a $5 million fund for women affected by similar retaliation. And Vivian would step down from all her business roles and submit to a monitor for her charitable foundations. It was more than we'd demanded. It was complete capitulation. Julia laid out the terms for all the plaintiffs on another conference call. This is as good as it gets, she said, her voice full of satisfaction. They're admitting fault, paying substantial damages, and facing real consequences. The vote was unanimous. We accepted the settlement. The announcement made national news. Prominent family pays $11 million in retaliation scandal. Articles detailed the pattern of abuse, the systematic destruction of women's lives, the culture of entitlement and control. Vivian Whitmore, once a celebrated philanthropist and society figure, became a cautionary tale about unchecked power. The money arrived in my account 2 weeks later. $2 million, minus Julia's contingency fee and taxes. I still walked away with over $1.2 million, more money than my parents had earned in their entire working lives combined. I used part of it to start a nonprofit. We provide legal support and financial assistance to women facing retaliation for standing up to powerful employers, partners, or families. We've helped 34 women in the first year alone. Some were paralegals like me. Others were corporate employees who reported harassment. A few were daughters escaping controlling families. Every one of them got a lawyer, money for living expenses, and someone who believed their story. Isabel works with me now. So does the woman who'd lost her daughter, who's regained full custody now that the false CPS allegations have been exposed and punished. We're building something good from all that ugliness. Trevor kept his word. He testified in 2 related cases that came out of our lawsuit, men from other wealthy families who'd used similar tactics. His testimony helped secure judgments against them. He moved to San Diego, and last I heard, he's working at a nonprofit that helps abuse victims. He sends me an email once a year on the anniversary of when this all started. Always just 3 words, thank you. Sorry. I never respond. Some things don't need words. Vivian tried to stage a comeback after a year. Started giving interviews about being unfairly targeted, about how the case had been blown out of proportion. The judge from our case, Judge Reeves, issued a public statement saying Vivian was violating the terms of the settlement by mischaracterizing the facts. Another $500,000 penalty. Vivian finally went quiet. I got hired at a different law firm 6 months after the settlement. They'd followed the case and specifically recruited me. I'm now a senior paralegal and I've been accepted to law school starting next fall. My story gets used in legal ethics classes as an example of standing up to retaliation. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that email, the one Brendan sent by mistake. If he'd sent it to Trevor instead of me, I would have shown up to some pre-wedding meeting and been blindsided with 47 pages of legal control. Maybe I would have signed it out of shock or pressure. Maybe I would have married Trevor and spent years trapped in a family that saw me as property to be managed, eventually being discarded when I served my purpose or stepped out of line one too many times. I don't wonder often. That future died the moment Brendan hit send on the wrong email address. And I'm grateful every single day for that mistake. The wedding planning is going smoothly. I'm getting married next spring to someone I met through a mutual friend at a charity event, someone who was intrigued by my story and impressed by my fight. No centerpiece drama this time. No secret documents lurking in inboxes. Just two people planning a celebration of a partnership built on honesty and respect. We're writing our own vows. No prenup, though we've both been advised to have one given my financial situation. We talk about money openly, about assets and plans and futures. Everything is transparent. Everything is equal. His mother loves me. She calls me brave. She tells people I'm the strongest person she's ever met. It's a refreshing change from Vivian's constant comparisons to Trevor's ex and barely concealed contempt. Trevor sent an email asking if he could attend. I didn't respond. Some chapters need to stay closed. Last month, a young woman reached out through our nonprofit's website. She'd been given a prenup by her wealthy fiancé's family 3 days before her wedding. It included clauses about her inheritance, her career, her autonomy. She was terrified and didn't know what to do. I met her for coffee, told her my story, showed her both prenup versions, explained that she had options, that she didn't have to accept terms designed to control her, that there were people who would help her fight if she chose to. She left that coffee shop with Julia Chen's business card and a copy of my edited prenup as an example. 2 weeks later, she called. I sent back his prenup with changes, she said, her voice trembling but resolute. He's furious. His mother is threatening me, but I'm not backing down. Good, I said, a wave of pride washing over me. Do you need a lawyer? Already called Julia. She's taking my case. I smiled. How do you feel? Terrified, she admitted, but also free. For the first time since we got engaged, I feel like I have power. You do, I told her, and you're not alone. That's what it's really about. Not the money, though that helps. Not the satisfaction of watching Vivian's empire crumble, though that was admittedly sweet. It's about the women who see our story and realize they don't have to accept being controlled. They don't have to sign away their rights or their futures because someone with more power demands it. They can fight back. And sometimes, against all odds, it actually works. I accepted an invitation to speak at a legal conference about retaliation in the workplace. I stood on that stage and told my story to 300 attorneys. Showed them the statistics on how often powerful families and employers target people who stand up to them. Explained the legal tools available to fight back. Gave them Julia Chen's contact information in case they needed a specialist. After my talk, a line formed. Lawyers wanting to discuss their own cases. Law students asking for advice. Women who'd faced similar situations, sharing their stories. I stood there for 2 hours, taking notes, giving referrals, listening to people who'd been waiting years for someone to tell them they weren't crazy, that what happened to them was real and wrong and actionable. That's the thing about breaking the silence. Once one person speaks up, others find their voice too. The Whitmore case opened doors for dozens of other cases. Julia Chen's practice has tripled. She's hired 4 associate attorneys just to handle the retaliation cases that came in after our settlement. Other firms are developing similar specialties. The legal landscape is changing slowly but noticeably. Vivian's friends don't call anymore. The society pages that once chronicled her charitable work now ignore her. Her children have all distanced themselves. Trevor's younger sister even filed her own lawsuit alleging emotional abuse and financial control. That case settled quietly, but word got out. The Whitmore name, once synonymous with power and prestige, now carries a stench of corruption and cruelty. I don't feel vindicated, exactly. More like settled. Like the universe rebalanced something that had been wrong for too long. Like justice, messy and imperfect as it was, actually happened. My parents were horrified when this all started. They'd been so proud I was marrying into money, so excited about the wedding at the country club, the connections, the social status. When I walked away, they thought I was insane. When I got fired, they begged me to apologize and fix it. When I filed the lawsuit, they stopped speaking to me for 3 months. Then the settlement came through. Then the media attention. Then my nonprofit launched. Suddenly, I was brave instead of stupid. Suddenly, I was a fighter instead of a troublemaker. Suddenly, they told everyone about their amazing daughter who stood up to a corrupt family and won. I try not to be bitter about their change of heart. They were raised in a different generation with different values. Money and status meant everything to them. They genuinely couldn't understand why I turned down security and comfort for something as abstract as principle. But they understand now. They volunteer at my nonprofit once a week. Answer phones, stuff envelopes, whatever we need. My mother told me last month, "I'm sorry I didn't support you at first. I was scared for you, but you were right. Some things matter more than money." It's not a full apology. It doesn't erase those months of silence when I desperately needed their support. But it's something. It's growth, and I'll take it. The 11 women from the class action stay in touch. We have a group chat where we share victories and frustrations. One of them just passed the bar exam and specifically wants to practice family law. Another started a blog about financial independence and escape plans for women in controlling relationships. A third wrote a memoir about her experience that got picked up by a major publisher. We're all building new lives from the rubble of what the Whitmores destroyed. And we're all using our experiences to help other women avoid the same traps or escape when they fall in. That's the real victory, not the money or the headlines or the satisfaction of watching powerful people face consequences. It's the ripple effect. Every woman we help who then helps another woman, who then changes a policy or starts a conversation or refuses to accept unacceptable terms. Change happens slowly, and then all at once. Trevor was right about one thing. There are consequences to standing up to powerful people. You might lose your job. Your reputation might take hits. Your family might not understand. The stress might keep you up at night. The legal fees might drain your savings. But there are also consequences to staying silent. To accepting terms designed to diminish you. To letting powerful people control your life because you're too scared to fight back. Those consequences last longer and cut deeper than any temporary hardship from resistance. I learned that the hard way, in a kitchen planning centerpieces, opening an email that changed everything. Making a choice in that moment to edit instead of accept. To fight instead of flee. To demand respect instead of beg for mercy. Would I do it again? Knowing all the stress and fear and uncertainty that followed? Knowing I'd lose my job and my fiancé and months of peace? Knowing I'd have to face down lawyers and depositions and public scrutiny? Yes. Absolutely. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Because I'm free. Free from a man who saw me as property. Free from a family that would have crushed me eventually. Free from a future of walking on eggshells and making myself smaller. Free to build a life based on my values instead of someone else's control. And that freedom, that's worth everything. The sun is setting outside my office window. I can see the city lights starting to glow. In an hour, I'm meeting my fiancé for dinner. We're going to talk about honeymoon destinations and guest lists and whether we want a band or a DJ. Normal wedding things. No hidden documents, no power plays, no threats. Just two people planning a future together as equals, as partners, as people who chose each other freely. And honestly, that's all I ever wanted. It just took a mistaken email and a war with one of the city's most powerful families to get it. But I'm here now and I'm finally genuinely happy. My phone buzzes. Another email from our nonprofit. Another woman reaching out for help. Another story of retaliation and control. Another opportunity to fight back. I saved the email to respond to tomorrow. Tonight is for celebrating, for remembering how far I've come. For being grateful that Brendan Mitchell, whoever he is, had terrible email organization and changed my life by accident. I close my laptop and head out the door. The future is waiting.